Three-game road trip for the Mets, 4 games in, and there's been some ups and downs so far on this trip as we welcome you to the Queens Connection, episode number 32, a production of Pat and Sports Creative. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogeveen. Corne, like I said, 4 games in, the Mets currently 2-2. Some things could be a little bit better at times for this team.
Yeah, some things could be worse too. Um, I would probably expect that we would win the series against the Angels and maybe lose against the Cardinals if we ended up 2-2. But in the end, I think we did get the most important game uh, with the tiebreaker with the Cardinals. Which, so if you go 2-2, rather winning the Cardinals game than and losing the Angels series than the other way around.
Well, that game in St. Louis yesterday was a crucial one, which we will obviously get to, but we're going to start things off in last Friday in Anaheim, where the Mets did get a 5-1 win over the Angels. A good start to that road trip, and it was highlighted by Paul Blackburn's Mets debut. And I would say Paul Blackburn, if people were upset with that trade, I think he kind of shut those guys down a bit with his 6 strong innings of work. The Mets got a big home run from Alonso to put them up 3-1, and they never looked back from there. So just a good start to this road trip, like I said, for the Mets. And uh, Paul Blackburn was probably in both our minds the story of Friday night's game.
Absolutely. Paul Blackburn did what Paul Blackburn does, not overpowering. He's the superstar, but he just tries to outsmart hitters, change up his arsenal. Like you mentioned last week, he throws the kitchen sink at you, and we got that on full display. Change up, definitely very, very good pitch for him. So I was impressed, and especially the reaction after the Mets turned that second double play. I love that kind of like, where was that in Oakland? Probably made some nice double plays behind him, but just found that very funny. I have the feeling that he really enjoys when you hear him talk about this trade and saw pitch on the mound. I think he really enjoys finally being part of a contender again, and hopefully it's not just the only good outing we see from Paul Blackburn, and we see more, but it's definitely a good start.
No doubt about that. And something that stands out is the 6 strikeouts, because we talked about Blackburn in our last episode of uh, more of a pitch to contact kind of guy, but averaging a strikeout per inning pitch, you're not going to be upset about that. And so a very good debut for Paul Blackburn as the Mets take the opener in Anaheim 5-1. Also have to credit Jose Buto and Phil Maton for finishing things off, throwing 3 scoreless innings with 4 strikeouts. So a nice pitching day all around for the New York Mets. Unfortunately, Saturday's game did not go as well as Friday's game. The Mets did get down 2-0, but in the 7th inning, after Jose Soriano came out, who was the starter for the Angels, that the Mets could not really touch at all. The Mets did strike with a grand slam from JD Martinez to put them up 4-2. So you're probably feeling pretty good about that. Go to the bottom half. Huskar Brazaban gets the first 2 guys out, but then he loses the zone a little bit. And then Zach Neto, very impressive series for him, puts the Angels back in front 5-4. Unfortunately, the Mets waste a leadoff double by Mark Vientos in the 8th. And then once Ben Joyce came into the game, it was pretty much over for the New York Mets there. So they dropped Saturday's game by a score of 5-4. Just a real tough one to swallow there for the Mets.
Definitely, if you the Mets were shut down for 6 innings by Soriano. Peterson kept the Mets in the ball game, which is definitely worth noting. I think even if you add that double in the 5th, if I am correctly, which was a check swing that went down a line, so they eventually scored. So it was even a bit unlucky. So he was really solid for us, kept us in the game, and then you get a grand slam by JD Martinez. I think it was even with 2 outs, but I'm not 100% sure. You hope that that's the momentum turning, and you win that series immediately, and then to give it all back with 2 outs. I think the first two hitters, Brosabon looked all right, obviously striking out both of them. And yeah, a little bit of deep counts, but still, you like your chances with 2 outs and nobody on, and then a walk. I think it was a walk hit, and then the big home run, which is super unfortunate. Obviously, the momentum turns way into the Angels' favor there after it was way in our favor just an inning before. But that's baseball. Uh, I saw a lot of disliking of Brassabo, like we saw when Stanek had his first bad outing. It happens. Still, it's still a good move. Still could be a very useful arm for us, but it just wasn't his outing. Especially, just sucks after because if he just struggled uh, off the gate, maybe you see a move made by Mendoza, but because he started out that inning pretty good, you probably keep him in there. So maybe him starting the inning so good eventually hurt the Mets.
Yeah, obviously, Peterson pitched very well in this game, going 6 innings of 2 runs. You'll take that every day of the week. But obviously, the highlight, it's a highlight of the whole series, but definitely highlighted in this game as well was the lack of ability to get that hit with runners in scoring position. The Mets were 1 for 7 this game. They left 8 on base. Um, just didn't have that clutch gene with them in Anaheim. We can probably talk more about that when we wrap up the series overall. But something that I think Darling made a really good a point on in the broadcast. It was when Vientos had that leadoff double in the 8th inning. Obviously, eventually pinch run for by Jose Iglesias. Was this the Mets of late haven't had that ability to have productive outs where you advance the runner on the out, like you were talking about the Luis Torrens, because that was the next at bat, which if you think about it, was I don't want to say a crucial at bat, but it was a factor because if he hits that ground ball up the middle more to the left side of second base, so Iglesias can't advance. If he hits that more to the right side, Guillorme has to go to his left, who's in the game at that point. Maybe Iglesias advances to third, and now you got two shots to get a guy 90 feet from home plate in. I mean, does McNeil still ground out to second base and Iglesias stays at third? That's entirely possible, but rather than having him on second base, even though he's in scoring position, all McNeil has to do is maybe hit a fly ball, sac fly, or tie a game. Something like I think it changes maybe the approach a little bit for a McNeil in that situation when he's on third base rather than second base. Do you think that's something, or just am I making a big deal out of nothing?
Oh, it definitely changes an approach for a hitter, and it changes the approach for the defensive team because they will probably bring the infield in there with 1 out, which obviously gives the hitter more of a chance to get a base hit. You never know the ifs. You never know if it's gonna happen. You never know how it pans out. But those at bats, uh, those are important, especially in a close game, knowing that Joyce was waiting in the wings in the ninth inning, and I think even in the broadcast they said you really need to, you know, score in this inning for the Mets to maybe have a chance because Ben Joyce is just really hard to hit, and then especially it's more important that Torrance in this case did that. On the other hand, it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not as easy as I mean, a lot of people obviously you want a productive out, but it's not just happening because it's not a given. Let me say it like that. It's difficult. It's difficult to have major league pitching do something with the ball that you want to do. It's very hard. We talked about McNeil for the full year, who was a guy who did that, but now just hits the ball hard and sees where it lands. So it shows that it's not as easy as it looks.
No, not at all. Just something that Darling brought up that I thought was an interesting discussion to have, and
It's definitely true. Obviously, yeah, it's not that. you're definitely right, and if it happened, it would definitely could have gone way different. And but hey, it is what it is.
Is what it is, and the Mets lose the second game in Anaheim, looking for a series win on Sunday. Unfortunately, they could not get that series win as they dropped the finale in Anaheim by a score of 3-2. Quintana, uh, weird outing because started out all right, but then the second and the third wasn't very sharp. And then in the fourth and fifth, looked like he got back into a bit of a groove. He did say after the game, he felt his mechanics were off. So obviously that's not great. But he did give the Mets 5 innings, a 3-run ball. But there were 4 walks in there, which when you say your mechanics are off, that's probably going to happen. So just kind of a rough day for the Mets. Another day where they struggled with runners in scoring position. 2 for 10, they left 7 on base. Um, just a tough series to you know for to kind of just sit back and look. It's like, man, no, the way the Diamondbacks are playing right now, the Padres. It was like we're playing the Angels, or the Mets are playing the Angels. You feel pretty good with your chances there, and to kind of drop that 2 of 3 in Anaheim. It's uh I don't want to say it's like a reality check, but the other teams, they're not just here for the Mets to beat around. There's despite the fact that the Angels are uh, after Sunday were 49-63. They're trying to win baseball games too. Unfortunately, they decided to play some of their better baseball when the New York Mets were in town.
They definitely did play some better baseball, especially if you consider that first game. I think we saw some great defense as well by the Angels. Old friend Kevin Pillar with a tremendous catch. The young shortstop looked good in the other 2 outings, 2 games. So yeah, they did play good baseball. They pitched fairly well. I think obviously, especially in the third game, you wanted more against Kevin Griffin. I think that's obvious. I think Soriano was just good, and that happens even with bad teams. But obviously, you want to win that series. You look at that series for a series to win, and the Mets didn't do it. And to make matters worse, the Diamondbacks just keep winning. That put us out of a wild card spot, which obviously makes me a little bit of fear. We have seen with the Mets um, just missing out, and I truly hope that's not the case this year. I still think overall the Mets are playing good, uh, but yeah, you just hope that it's just not just missing yet again. But we will see. Luckily, we have a good game to talk about next. I would say about Quintana. Obviously, wasn't good on Sunday, but he battled, gave us 5, and kept us in the game. And I always really appreciate that in starting pitchers to not falter as much and limit the damage somewhat.
Yeah, you have to tip your cap to the Angels for playing some great baseball. Obviously, Quintana trying to give the Mets as much as he could, and he did. Unfortunately, those no middle innings, the second and the third in his outing were not very sharp. So the Mets do drop this finale in Anaheim 3-2. And like you said, with the way the Diamondbacks are going, you hope that by the end of the season, the Mets are not missing out by a game, something like that. It's because then we could go back for the whole season and be like, oh, if they had won this game, they were winning, but then we're going to do that. But hopefully, we're not in that position. And the Mets
Well,
can get back on track, which they kind of did on Monday. So I think that's a good segue to the one game in St. Louis, and this was a very big one, as we alluded to off the top, because if the Mets won this game, they would have the tiebreaker over the St. Louis Cardinals, going 4-2 against them, and well, the New York Mets did win this game, so they hold the tiebreaker over the Cardinals after a 6-0 win in St. Louis. And the headliner of this game was Sean Manaea once again, going 7 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts. These last two starts by Manaea have been dominant on his part, and is really, really, I would say, after kind of those June-ish kind of struggles. I think particularly the game in London and like that one. After that, really, I feel like Manaea has really settled in. Has had a couple hiccups every now and then, like the one against the Marlins. But really, he's in a nice groove. And I'll ask you because maybe I haven't really noticed as much. Keith Hernandez on the broadcast was talking about maybe Manaea's dropped his arm slot a little bit, more of a three quarters sidearm kind of look. Um, do you think that's true, and do you think that is the reason for Manaea's success of late?
I'm not. I always think he is a little bit from the side when he pitches. So when looking at it, it's not necessarily thought that that was the change. I think the change was more, the way he used his fastball and sweeper. I think he's a little bit more up in the zone, a little bit above, and spotting that really well. We have seen Manaea miss, arm side with that fastball, and now he's just spotted that fastball a lot better. And it's just a great pitch to change the eye level with the sweeper that he throws, or back foot, or sweeps it in on the outside. Um, so I think it's more how how he pitches right now, um, with the command he's shown right now of his fastball and slider. I think it's very impressive. I don't necessarily saw a lower uh, arm angle. I think he always has a fairly low arm angle. So, but there are stat casts for that who show release points. So maybe they saw a little bit of difference. I didn't see anything on Twitter. Mostly, you have some guys who pounce on that if somebody says it. So that makes me think it's probably not 100% true what Keith thought he saw.
Yeah, I didn't really see much of a change in Manaea's arm action or anything like that with my naked eye watching the game. But maybe, like you said, that you look at the stat casts or numbers and whatnot. Maybe there is, but uh, nothing in my eyes stood out like, oh, then he's a little lower in the arm angle compared to like maybe it's a little bit easier to tell with some guys with like the leg kicks. But if you talk about McGill with his leg kick in his most recent uh, major league outings, changed his leg kick to hell. So there's more noticeable things than other things. But with Manaea, for me, I didn't really notice much of a change in his arm angle. I was just more focused on the 10 strikeouts in 7 innings and the big old goose egg he put up there for the St. Louis Cardinals. And he had a nice lead to work with thanks to Harrison Bader with an RBI double. And obviously, the big hit was Tyrone Taylor clearing the bases with a double. That really kind of sealed the deal for the Mets in this game. And obviously, McNeil with the home run, too.
Number two hitter, Tyrone Taylor, everybody.
That's right. That's right. Well, there were some people, us included, that were curious why Jesse Winker wasn't in the lineup. And then when they said at the beginning of the broadcast that Pilate, the starter for the Cardinals, he's a reverse splits guy. The right-handers actually hit better against than the lefties. Like the right-handers are almost hitting 300. Then it made a little bit more sense. And now, of course, Tyrone Taylor delivers the big hit of the game. So good for Tyrone Taylor. He's been a good Met this year, I think, in the role that he's been assigned for this team.
Oh, I think he's been a great Met, a very good fourth outfielder to have, and we not just have him for this year, but I think we have him for next year and the year after too. So it's a great pickup by David Stearns. Obviously, the other part of the trade that hasn't worked as well in Adrian Hauser, but I think we can be very pleased with Tyrone Taylor, not just getting some big hits. Notice when Tyrone Taylor does get some more playing time, he definitely hits better, so that's good. And his defense is off the charts, especially in right field. I saw that he led the league in defensive runs saved. Well, he doesn't play a lot, so that's pretty darn impressive, I would say. And yes, before the game, I did thought that why Winker is in the lineup, but then, like you mentioned, I also always put it at my notes. He had pretty extreme reverse splits, Palante, and Tyrone Taylor has that too. So He's also hitting better against right-handers, same like Harrison Bader. So maybe it was just the great move because both of them had a very good game.
Oh, they sure did, and the Mets bullpen did a good job here. In the eighth and ninth, the eighth inning pitched by Ryan Stanek. Diaz got some work in as well. He pitched a scoreless inning. Nothing warmed my heart more to see Ryan Stanek strike out Tommy Pham in this game. That was very. I got a nice chuckle out of that. So, very good day overall for the Mets yesterday, and for me personally.
Jeffy also a home run, by the way, so that's great to see. Yeah, for you personally, for me personally, it was also a good game because I kept the lead with the fantasy team because of Sean and I against one of the biggest douchebags of our
Me.
league. Yeah,
Well, so far in this 10-game road trip, the Mets are 4-4, like we had mentioned, a big win over the Cardinals with the tiebreaker. Unfortunately, as we look at the National League wildcard standings overall, the Mets are kind of in the same position they were over the weekend because unfortunately the Guardians, who are taking on the Diamondbacks, every time they would get a lead, they would say Arizona will give you that run right back. So the Diamondbacks did beat the Guardians last night, so the Mets remain a game and a half behind. Uh, Actually, the Diamondbacks and Padres because there is a tie percentage points. Actually, I mean the Braves too with 60 and
exactly.
51. They're only 1 percentage point ahead of the Diamondbacks and Padres. So it's a tight race. The Padres are taking on the Pirates. The Guardians and Diamondbacks are still going at each other, and I'm not. The Braves are taking on the Brewers. So, some teams are playing. They are playing good teams, and they're right in the thick of this race. So hopefully, the Mets can keep doing their part, and they'll get a little help elsewhere, and they'll climb right back in, and everyone will feel a lot better.
Definitely. It's also good to see that we are 1.5 games behind, which isn't it feels bad because it's been a while since we were 1.5 game out, but if you consider 1.5 game, it's peanuts over a full season. But it's also good to see that we are 1.5 games back of 3 teams. So if we just keep winning ball games, and if the other 3 teams just keep winning as well, then you have to tip your cap and say, yeah, that's not great, but yeah, we did everything we could. So just keep playing well, winning. I know because you mentioned it yesterday. We have a pretty important part of the schedule at the end of August with 2 teams that are ahead of us. We face 7 times in a row, so that's going to be a very nerve-wracking time for us Mets fans.
Yes, a 7-game stretch, part of a 10-game road trip, I believe, where they four in San Diego and then the next three in Arizona. So if those games still mean anything, if the Mets don't, you know, poop their pants and just fall out of this race, that next week is going that week stretch. I don't think a lot of people are going to want to be around you or me. So we will be taking blood pressure medication to keep it
I
down, and
already,
you
I
you
already
already do.
do,
So okay, so just double the dosage, I guess. Don't mix it with alcohol. Um, but that is going to be a very important time in the Mets season. And like you said in the chat, if those games still mean anything, it could be a make or break for the Mets season.
Yeah, definitely. If you face your main competition 7 times in a row, at least if you look at it right now, 2 of the 3, um, you can be really, really happy. You can be neutral, which is possible, obviously, if you just play 500 ball, or you could definitely lose the season there and be some games behind. So it's definitely important. But before that, we have some games we also have to win. We have had some issues with maybe lesser team, but we just have to win in this next 1.5 week. Only the Mariners are fairly good this weekend, but then Oakland, then Miami, if I remember correctly, and the Rockies coming up. So you just have to beat them up now. Time
Yes.
to just put the pedal on the metal,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Maybe we're jumping the gun a little bit there, but because there's still some games to be played, like you said, they got the Rockies coming up, and let's not forget about that 3-game series with the Baltimore Orioles as well. That's looming.
Right.
That's right
Yeah.
after the Marlins weekend series in New York, and you look at the A's and they're 20 games under 500, but they're a pesky kind of team. They're kind of like the Marlins a little bit, where they just kind of win these games. Like they beat up the Dodgers last weekend for a game. So the A's have that ability in them to be to be some spoilers. So hopefully they decide to get rid of all that before they play the New York Mets. But um, as we transition now from the major leagues to the minor leagues, because there was a weekend full of action down on the farm that Mr. Corne Hogeveen is going to update us on in his latest minor league minute.
Well, first I'm gonna start with some on the field, but not on the games notes. I did see some photos that Matt Allen is back on X. Bit of the forgotten Mets prospect, but still younger than Brandon Scroat, for example. So he was back on the mound, so that's definitely worth noting. Obviously, I think it's fair to say that we don't expect greatness out of Matt Allen, but maybe a bit of an under the radar arm that eventually, with all those injuries, turns out to be good. You definitely take that. Dominican Summer League, 16-year-old Diogo Diaza had a tough July after a good June. However, started August on a high note with a 2-for-4 day with a double and 2 runs batted in, and added his first career home run on Monday against the other Mets team. So Daniel German had a good day with a 2-for-4, 2 runs scored day, hitting a double as well. Diaza and German accounted for 4 of the 7 hits in the Friday loss for the blue team. Anthony Crespo from Panama got the loss but allowed just 2 unearned runs over 3 2/3, striking out 4. The Orange team did fare better on Friday. Bowen Adderley went 2-for-4 with 2 RBIs in the win. Fredion Figueroa and Jemdrick Cornelia closed out the win, combining for 3 2/3 scoreless innings, striking out 7. Best career outing for Wild Wilmer Lugo, 5 scoreless innings, allowing just 3 hits and 2 walks. The walks is definitely a big plus for him. And 6 strikeouts, he lowered his ERA to 2.81. The lefty has tremendous stuff, but control is an issue, which also showed at times in this game because he had 3 wild pitches. Hopefully, a breakout a couple of days for Giovanni Rodriguez. Last year, big international free agent, went 2-for-4 with 2 doubles and 5 RBIs. Still struggling this season with a 647 OPS. Jose Guevara needs to be promoted to St. Lucie, another strong outing. With 5 innings of 1 run ball, he allowed just 3 hits and 1 walk with 5 strikeouts, 1.49 ERA with an 0.76 whip and 50 strikeouts in 42 and a third inning. This is the dominant showing for Guevara. Another strong outing for Elvis Miralles. He went 6 innings, allowing 3 runs, 1 earned on 4 hits with no walks and 8 strikeouts. St. Lucie, Johairo Cuevas hit his first home run of the year in a 1-for-4 Thursday. Boston Barrow had another 2-hit day, hitting 288 on the season right now. And Grant Hardwick with another scoreless rehab inning in front of Joel Diaz, who was outstanding. Diaz allowed just 2 runs on 8 hits without a walk over 7 innings of 2-run work. Brooklyn, Omir de Los Santos had a 2-for-5 day with 2 triples on Thursday and hit a home run on Saturday. It's Omar's 6th since July 13th. He drove in 3. The other day, Los Santos Jeffrey scored 3 runs in a 1-for-3 day. On Friday, Mateo Gil homered and Nick Moravito had 2 hits in a Thursday win. Jonathan Jordani Ventura went 1 2/3 scoreless in his return to action for the Cyclones. Nice 3.76 ERA for Jordani. DeAndre Smith had a much needed good day, went 2 for 3 and homer the day after, struggling since his return from injury, so good to see that he had a good weekend. Felipe de la Cruz was solid until the game got suspended due to rain on Friday, and the game finished Saturday. He went 3 innings of 1 run ball, striking out 4. Zach Thornton made the Cyclones debut with 3 innings of 2 run ball. He allowed 4 hits and walked none, with 4 strikeouts for the lefty. Got my first look at Joelmy Ramirez on Sunday. Was very fastball heavy and doesn't miss bats. Doesn't look overpowering, but got some soft contact outs. Moved the ball around the zone enough. Allowed a home run in the first, but no more runs over 4 innings. Allowing just 2 hits, 3 walks with 2 strikeouts. And the second game of that doubleheader day, the Cyclones won behind strong games from Nick Morabito and Mateo Gil. Morabito went 2 for 4 with a go-ahead RBI and 2 runs. With his 36th stolen base, Gale drove in 3 in a 3 for 4 day. Alan Perdomo made his Cyclones debut with a save. Binghamton, Ryan Clifford got the only RBI in an exciting 1-0 win. Jeffrey Colon made his third Double-A start and his fourth appearance and was strung over 3 2 scoreless. He was followed by Nolan Clenny for 3 1/3 scoreless. JT Shook struck out 3/2 scoreless innings for the save. Brandon Sprout been promoted after this game, and rightfully so. He was outstanding. 5 scoreless innings, allowing 2 hits and no walks with 13 strikeouts. He struck out the last 11 batters. However, the bullpen struggled behind him, highlighted by Sean Reed Foley allowing 3 runs without recording an out. Sean Reed Foley had another bad day later in the weekend, so he's been struggling in his rehab. Binghamton got a great outing from Luis Moreno, guy you like, with 5 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 hit and 1 walk while striking out 9. Moreno quietly has the third best K per 9 in the system amongst pitchers with at least 70 innings, so he's been a bit under the radar, but he's having a good season. Unfortunately, Garrett struggled behind him and was the other bad outing from Sean Reed Foley, who both struggled. Syracuse, Drew Smith collected 2 doubles, been hitting well since his return from the injury, which is obviously huge. Another day, another Luke Ritter homer. Ritter hit his 23rd home run and drove in 4. Sucks that Ryan Bannon is gone because we can't do our thing anymore, but I think Ritter would probably lead right now. Dominic Hamill allowed 4/4 but just 3 earned, allowed 5 hits and 4 walks with 4 strikeouts. Tyler Seaver got the loss in his organizational debut, allowing 2 runs in his inning. Syracuse lost both games of the doubleheader on Saturday. Ritter went 3 for 3 in game 1. Tidwell struggled with control with 4 walks over 2 1/3 innings, allowing 6 runs, just 2 earned. Shintaro Fujinami pitched 2 perfect with a K behind Tidwell. In game 2, Syracuse got some good relief work from Eric Orsi and Matt Gage, both striking out 2 in a scoreless flame. Also watched red hot Mike Fessel for Syracuse. Unfortunately, he didn't stay red hot. He got hit around a bit, allowing 4 runs over 6 innings, allowing 8 hits. I was impressed by Max Krennic and his curveball, as he threw a very strong inning, showing a very good curveball. It was followed by Tyler Suber, so I also got my first look at him. He looked good. He showed a sharp slider in a better second outing.
Got a question for you, mostly more about the rehab guys, Reed Garrett and Sean Reed Foley that you mentioned in that that minor league minute. Um, I know Reed Foley does not have any options. I believe that was because that was part of the discussion about if he would make the team or not out of camp. We know Reed Garrett has some options left. But I'm just looking at the way with this bullpen right now with the Brazabon, Buto, Ottavino, Stanek. There are guys in there that they're going to stay. Like you're not going to take Jose Buto out of the bullpen for Reed Garrett or whatnot, which makes the two likely candidates if the Mets want to keep those guys on the active roster, or when they get back from their rehab assignment, it's probably the young guys, Alex Young and Danny Young. But then you don't have any lefties in the bullpen. So I'm curious, with the way that the bullpen's currently constructed, and with those guys coming back and Foley not having any options and whatnot, but Danny Young and Alex Young have pitched well out of the bullpen. There's also Daniel Nunez, who's should be back at some point. We don't know when, but it sounds like he's going to come back. There's going to be a lot of arms, not a lot of spaces in that bullpen. I mean, what would you do if you were David Stearns? Would you just kind of keep the bullpen the way it is because it's been working so well of late, or do you view Reed Garrett and company as like upgrades over what Danny Young and Alex Young have given you? I mean, I don't know. It was something I was thinking about over the weekend and I hadn't had a chance to talk to you about, but I figured this would be a great time to bring it up.
It's definitely a very good question, and it's a very difficult decision because both Alex Young and Danny Young have been really really good. I think it's the smartest things to do with all these guys. I think Olovino has been pretty good lately, also a little bit under the radar good. So uh, I doubt that the Mets will DFA him while he's he's being at his best right now, probably in this year. So I think it's just the way how baseball works. Sometimes it's looking at options. Garrett has options, so I could see with him, struggling in his rehab, but also struggling a bit before his injury as well. Um, Obviously, after the good April he had, I think overall we have said on this podcast that his whip is fairly high, even if his ERA maybe stayed down. His whip is pretty high. So I would probably option Reed Garrett. He has an option year left and he hasn't been optioned a lot this year, so you could easily option him. I don't know how Alex Young and uh, Danny Young their options are right now. I think if I have to pick one of the two guys, it's probably Danny Young because I really like his strikeout stuff. But Alex Young has been really good too, so depends also a little bit on um, how those options work. I don't have that at the top of my head. I know Danny Young has been optioned a couple of times, so maybe he's close to us maybe uh, DFAing him or whatever. And I don't want that. Sean Reed Foley, although Sean Reed Foley has been really good, is a good arm. It's for me, it's a guy who's been hurt quite a lot. So is is that part of Sean Reed Foley? I think you might say over the years that he's just not as durable as maybe other guys, and I think that's important to have a guy that's durable. So if you have to make a decision about who you're gonna lose, I might lean to Sean Reed Foley being the odd man out and have Reed Garrett, you know, uh, being optioned, and then you have Nunez who comes back. Uh, but I wouldn't necessarily hate if Ottavino is the odd man out because you have control over Sean Reed Foley and not over Ottavino. It's tough. Honestly, I don't know. That's yeah. It rattles in my mind with all different thoughts coming in my mind at the same time, and I don't necessarily I say things that you have to account for making that decision, but when it all comes together, I don't find a conclusion in my head. So it's a really tough decision. I'm happy that I don't have to make it.
We're definitely both on the same page when it comes to Reed Garrett. I think he goes down to Syracuse. At least that's what I would do. Just talk about the whip. His whip this season is 1.43. That's not good. And then the last seven outings before he got hurt, or well, maybe he was hurt at the time, but before he got placed on the IL, his whip in those seven outings was 2.63. Like that's really, really bad. And obviously that rehab outing in Banton didn't give you much hope that maybe the control was injury related. I think this is just kind of who Reed Garrett is. Throws the if you don't swing, if you don't excuse me, if you don't swing at the splitter in the dirt, he's probably not going to throw it over the. No, he's not going to throw much over the plate. So you can just take and take and take and don't do him any favors. I think that's kind of the game plan against Reed Garrett, and we saw teams do that before he got placed on the IL. So I would agree, Reed Garrett. Let's go to Syracuse. I like what the young guys have brought uh, from the left side in the bullpen. I think it's good to have just a lefty in the bullpen. Maybe, even though there's maybe some guys with reverse splits or something or whatever, but I like having a lefty in there. I like having two, especially that have been so productive for you uh, in this stretch. So it was something I thought about because there are guys coming back and some guys who might deserve to be on the roster maybe won't be because of some of these guys. So it was something to watch for in the coming days here with the New York Mets. And in the coming days, the Mets find themselves in Colorado, their third different time zone on this road trip. Obviously, that'd be the Mountain Time Zone, and they got a, good pitching matchup. Well, I mean, I guess it used to be a good pitching matchup when Kyle Freeland was actually good, but uh, it's going to be Luis Severino looking to bounce back tonight at 8:40 Eastern time against Kyle Freeland for the Colorado Rockies. Then tomorrow, actually, I believe all of these games. No, Thursday's a getaway day. Never mind. Wednesday is also at 8:40 Eastern time. That's Paul Blackburn making his second start for the Mets, going up against Ryan Feltner, who is an Ohio State Buckeye alum. So we hope the Mets beat him around. And then on Thursday, it is a getaway day, 3:10 Eastern time start. David Peterson against Austin Gomber. So some lefties going in that game. So Coors Field, not exactly a pitching paradise. So I feel sorry for you because we're going to go to our player of the series predictions, and you get the pitcher in this series. So have fun.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, obviously it's my luck that I have the pitcher when we face the Rockies. That's just how life works for me sometimes. No, just kidding. It's not that bad, people. I'm going with the battle of lefties. I'm going with Dave Peterson, a guy uh, who has shown some more ground ball ability, which obviously I think it's important in course field ground balls and getting some strikeouts. I think he has done that quite well recently. So I'm going with David Peterson. Keep the ball low, keep the ball on the ground, getting some chases on the fastball, with that slider out of the zone, uh, and be nasty.
Obviously, I like that pick very, very much. So for a batter hitter this week, I'm going to go with someone who's oh, what
Who's
you
he
got some?
gonna choose in first field?
You can have your pick of the
Oh,
litter.
you can choose anybody. You probably get a couple of hits, or maybe three or four in this couple of days.
Well,
So who cares?
wow. Okay. No one really cares what I have to say. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
You're saying I could pick Luis Torrens and Luis Torrens would probably go 3 for 4 just because it's Coors Field and not to say
We, we,
Luis Torrens
we
is not a good hitter, but you know,
no, we don't say that, but we we tend to like pitching and we hate course field games. We both do.
yes.
So we just hope to get at least two wins out of there and be happy with the result. But it's not necessarily the type of games. Mostly, we have seen some very good pitching performances. Logan Ferret in 2015 comes to mind with 8 scoreless there. I know Dylan G had a very good start there. So if you have a good pitching outing, I think it's even more impressive. So we do like that, but it tends to go a little bit different in course field. So that's my not to you, Andrew, but that's my disliking of maybe course field.
Well, I'm right there with you. So, Coors Field games are not the most fun games to watch, for us. Uh, but anyway, we'll get back on track here. My hitter of the week, or hitter of the series, I should say, is I'm going to go with Lindor. Lindor's been scuffling a little bit on this road trip. I think a place like Coors Field, he could find maybe a little bit of a groove here after maybe some close calls in Anaheim. Obviously, wasn't as effective as we'd like to see him be against the Cardinals yesterday. Um, uh, so I think Coors Field, Francisco Lindor, that leadoff spot, I think it's going to poke one out to begin the game in this series. So let's go with Lindor to have a nice series here against the Colorado Rockies.
So we see a leadoff home run by Francisco Lindor.
Leadoff home run from Francisco Lindor. I'm calling it right here.
All right.
So hopefully Francisco Lindor will help me out there and come through, come through in that.
That would be fun.
That would be
That would
great.
be fun.
That would be great, and it will be just be the first run of 14 to 12 game that hopefully the Mets win.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we can hope for in Coors Field. Just win,
Just
and
win.
then
Just
and
for,
then be done with it.
yep. Just get out of there and go to Seattle and go to the fish markets and all the stuff in Seattle. So, all right. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up here, and we thank Mr. Corne Hogley for joining as always, sharing his wisdom. And we hope you enjoy this 3-game series against the Colorado Rockies, sir.
Yeah, thanks. You too, buddy.
All right, everyone. This has been the Queen's Connection, a production of Patent Sports Creative. We are on Facebook, Twitter. Just search the Queen's Connection. We'll pop right up. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen, Spotify or YouTube. Also, leave comments as well. We like to interact. And maybe we'll have some giveaways coming away soon with more interaction. Maybe we'll have some things to give away. Who knows? So stay tuned for that. Gotta make sure you like, subscribe, and interact, though, and all that good stuff. So thanks. Enjoy this 3-game series against Rockies, and we'll talk to you on Friday.